The goal of this is to help you guys in your in-home appointments. Now, the first thing I want to share with you before we jump into all that is, guys, I want you all to recognize that right now, right here, today is the best time to be with Family First Life. When I started 2 years ago, this is better than 2 years ago. We have more leads than we've ever had. We have more training than we've ever had. We have better, I wouldn't say we have better leadership, but our leadership has matured directly on our team within, from Sean, Mike, and everyone down from him. And so our company continues to get better. We continue to evolve. We continue to stay in front of the marketplace and our industry. This is why we are an industry leader in the IMO insurance marketing space, okay? So this is the best time. And I'm starting there because I want you guys to have the same conviction, the same belief, the same understanding that I have, that Clay has, that Nate has, because at the end of the day, the stronger your belief, the stronger your conviction that we're doing the right thing, the best thing for our clients, and we're out there to serve, the more you're going to be able to help families, okay? And obviously it all starts with leads and getting leads. And we're not going to spend a bunch of time on leads because today is about structuring an in-home. All right. So first and foremost, guys, we are going to go with, this is going to be a 7-step process. Okay. So all of you guys should have a pen and paper handy, and you guys should be ready to take some notes. Okay. So we're going to talk about 7 steps. 7 steps to make a successful in-home appointment, okay? The first one is going to be mindset. So mindset, okay? And if someone could type these in the chat so everyone can get them in case someone misses them or jumps on late or something like that. And then I will send out a summary at the end of this to each of you guys, and this will be recorded like I mentioned. So mindset. You have to realize, guys, whether you've taken one appointment, whether you've been on a ton of appointments, whether you're in a slump, whatever the case may be, that every lead you purchase is a family asking for help, is a family that raised their hand and said, hey, we're interested. Hey, we either need mortgage protection, life insurance, final expense insurance. It doesn't matter what advertisement they've responded to, they have told you they need help. Keep in mind, final expense and mortgage protection, that's just kind of like a marketing play. It's insurance, guys. Clients understand it's insurance. They're not confused, okay? They call it, some clients, when you sit with mortgage protection, they're like, is this mortgage insurance? Yes and no, right? And we'll talk about that. We're not going to get into the specifics of that right here. But all of this is, they understand that they need help. If they didn't need help, if they weren't interested, if they didn't want more information, they would not respond. They would throw it away. They would disregard the thing that the pop-up on their social media or the internet. Clay, Nate, anything that you guys want to jump in and add on as it relates to mindset?
Yeah, you got to realize that when it comes to like the families, it's uncomfortable for them to talk about death. A lot of people don't want to do it. That's why you get like cancellations like 15 minutes before an appointment. But you got to go in with the mindset that like, hey, we're here to help you. We're not here to sell you. That's one thing I go in every meeting with, is I'm in there to help that family. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know their situation. You know, I try to, when I go into a home, I'll look in and I'll relate with them. You know, I don't judge their circumstances, because at the end of the day, they need help.
Yep.
You're muted.
Clay, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There we go.
So, you know, I go in with the mindset that, you know, what if I knew that they were going to pass away tomorrow, and what would that look like for the family? And, you know, like that is that's very realistic. I mean, like we all are going to pass away at one time or another. And, you know, if I knew that 100% that the client is going to not be here tomorrow, what would I do to try to get them protected, get their family protected? It's not I think I started shifting my mindset as well to, I'm not protecting them, I'm protecting their family. And that's the whole reason why we do this, is I'm not protecting John if he passes away, I'm protecting Mary. So deep down, I think that John, unless he was, deep down, John wants to protect Mary. It's my job to put John in the position to where he can, so I just go in with that mindset every time, and to kind of shift away from that. I go in with the mindset that, like Julie said, they did fill out this form, even if they act like they didn't, or even if they act like they're not interested anymore. It's my job to remind them as to why they did that in the first place.
And the last thing I want to leave you guys with as we relate to mindset, and when you're starting out, when you're new to Family First Life, when you're new to being in business for yourself, when you're new to this business, I realize and I acknowledge that most of us, if not all of us, are in a situation that we are here because we need money now. We are in a situation where we want to make money. The reason I'm saying that is because when I started, I wanted to win so bad that the only thing that I was thinking about was the dollars. And when you put the dollars first and you think about the commission, because you have to pay your bills, you have to, make money to provide for your family, whatever you're trying to do. Okay. The reason why you're here at Family First Life. The one thing that I will tell you is you cannot think about the commission first, because you will lose every single time. If you guys have ever heard of the statement, don't have commission breath, in the beginning, it is hard. It is very hard, especially if you came from a W-2 employee job where you are being paid every single week, right? Which I was, which Nate was, which Clay was, right? We had consistent guaranteed money. We show up to work, we clock in, we clock out, we know we're getting a paycheck, right? There's that guarantee, there's that safety net. When we don't have that safety net here, we get that pit in the bottom of our stomach because it's uncomfortable for us. It's new. We don't know if we're going to be able to are we going to be able to swim, or are we going to sink, right? We all want to swim, but we're scared we're going to sink. And when you realize that it's not about the commission's a byproduct, and you're really there to serve and help families and make the best decisions for themselves, that commission will pour in like you've never seen money coming in your life. I can promise you that. If I can just give you a taste of what that feels like, if you've ever experienced that, or you're going through that, or you're trying to figure that out, just guys, I urge you, do not think about the money. Not before you go in the appointment, not when you're sitting with the client, not when you're going through the financial inventory, not when they pick the biggest premium and you're like, holy crap, it's about to be $3,000 and I'm going to make it in a few days. And you're getting excited because here's what's going to happen. And it's happened to me. Like, holy cow, they're picked a $300 a month. I'm about to make $3,600. I've never made money like this in an hour. And then it doesn't go through. And you're like, shit, now you're pissed off. Now you're like, man, why was I counting my money before it actually happened? That's the last thing you want to do. And I urge you guys, don't think about the dollar, think about the family. A mentor of mine once said, love the saying, love the one you're with, right? Be present in the moment that you're there with that family, with that person. You're there to serve them, and you will be taken care of. Okay. So that's step one. Step two is the intro. Okay. The intro is really important, right? The introduction. How do you introduce yourself and properly make sure that you are taking control of the appointment? Okay. So I'm going to role play what I do. And then Nate and Clay, you guys jump in then. And then the other steps, I'm going to have you guys role play first, and then we'll jump in. Okay. So, all right. So you ring the doorbell. They don't answer. You knock on the door one way or the other. Obviously you're trying to get them to answer their door. So I ring the doorbell, nothing too crazy. They come to the door. Hey, Bob and Mary, or hey, Mary, usually it's one or the other. hey, Mary, this is Julius. I'm here for the final expense appointment that we have. I'm the local field underwriter. Do you have a table we can use? Or where's your table? Where's your kitchen table? We just need to do some writing, right? Why? Because if you don't tell them where you're trying to go, they're going to try to put you on the couch. They're going to say, oh, well, why don't we stand outside over here by my car? Or why don't we go in whatever they're going to tell you where they want you? No, Mary, I need a table. I need to do some writing. I got to ask you some questions. And I need to make sure that you're eligible for these programs. And I just need a table for us to sit down and have a conversation with. Now, if they're married and I'm like, hey, Mary, okay, where's the table? All right, we go to sit down and I know they're married because they told me that on the appointment. I'm going to say, okay, is Bob here? Or where's Bob at? Oh, he's not home. Okay, number one, you never do a one-legged appointment. In only, like, there's rare instances, very rare instances that I'll do one-legged. What is a one-legged appointment? A one-legged appointment means if they're married, have a significant other, another person that they use to make a decision with, you don't move forward with that appointment. Oh, okay, well, hey, you know what? We're required to get the information to both of you. So if he's going to be back in a few minutes, I can wait. If not, let's go ahead and reschedule. Okay. Now, if there's going to be times where clients are like, well, you know, we don't need her. I'm like, or we don't need him. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Are you guys, you know, are you guys looking to get coverage on both of you or just one of you? Oh, just me. Okay. Do you guys make decisions together like most couples and most households? No, actually, I'm going to be the one making the decision today. So, okay. So just to be clear, Bob, if we find that you're eligible for a program and you find a plan that makes financial sense for you, you're making the decision without Mary, correct? Yes. Okay. If you've taken that off the table on the front end, then feel it out and move forward. But I'm telling you guys, 95% of the time, if the other person isn't there, just reschedule the appointment. That is how you take control, because the last thing you want to do is go on an appointment, spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and then they're like, well, I got to talk to Mary about this. Like, what the heck was I doing? I don't want to waste my time. You guys don't want to waste your time. Our time is money, okay? And so you want to make sure that you're sitting with folks that are there. So there's a few steps. You introduce yourself, right? You ask where you're going, where you would, where's the kitchen table that we can use, and take control, make sure both people are there. And then, you know, and then the other thing that I do, and we'll see what Clay and Nate do, is hey, how's your day going? Right? Like, just be polite, be nice. You walk in, I don't ask to take off my shoes. I know Sean Mike says that. I kind of base that on the client, to be honest with you. If the client's home is pretty like not put together or not really like spick and span, I'm not asking. But if their client's house is, you know, pretty put together and looks pretty orderly, and sometimes even when you ask, clients are like, why are you asking me to take off your shoes? And I'll make a stupid comment like, well, if I didn't ask, my mom would slap me upside the head because she taught me better. That's what we do at our home, right? Like, just have fun with it. Don't be so stiff and rigid, right? But how's your day going? You know, how long have you guys been in Arizona? That's where I live, right? You know, just some small talk to just kind of break the ice so it's not so like rigid. Clay, I'll start with you. What do you do in your intro that might be a little different or similar that has helped you?
Are we talking about like when I get to the door or once we sit at the table?
Get in the door and you're going to the table, but we haven't started setting the table.
Okay. So basically I do it very similar to what you do, Julius. I knock on the door. I don't knock like I'm the police, but I knock, you know, firm. You know, they answer the door. I say, hi, Mary, my name is Clay Sweet. I'm here for our final expense or mortgage protection appointment. Shoes on or off. I just beeline it to the kitchen table. I don't really even ask, do you have a table? I just kind of find the table and we're sitting there. If we're walking in, I try to identify something in the home that I could make a comment about, whether it be like a picture or, you know, if they're a sports fan, I'll mention something like that. But I'm very much like trying to get to the table. I found that in the beginning that I felt like I needed to stand there and talk about their stamp collection for 20 minutes, and that would build rapport, and it doesn't. You want to leave with a client, not a friend. So I'm very much to the point. I get to the table as quickly as humanly possible. If it's a couple, I make sure that they're sitting in front of me. I don't want one sitting over here, the other sitting here, because eye contact is very crucial. If their TV is on, I'm making sure that it's turned off. I mean, I'm a pretty sociable guy, so of course I'll kind of make some small talk, but it's kind of small talk on the way to the table because I'm there to conduct business. We're not looking to, like I said, talk about a stamp collection for 30 minutes. So I'm very much to the point. Once I sit down, and I know we're going to stop there and then move on, but when I sit down, I don't have anything out just yet. I've kind of taken from Eric Schmidt on that. I want to make sure that I'm sitting in front of people that are actually serious about getting insurance. So I don't know if Nate wants to jump in, but I'm very much like, I used to stop at the door and talk forever. And our time is so precious. I mean, we're running a bunch of appointments, and if you have a full schedule, you know that you can't do that. So I don't know if Nate wants to jump in, but that's pretty much what I do.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because we all kind of do the same thing. First thing I do is I'll introduce myself. I pay attention to like the culture. If it's an Asian family, most Asian families don't wear their shoes in the house. Same thing what Julius says. I mean, obviously, if there's trash on the floor, I ain't taking my shoes off. I'm not going to step in what they have on their floor. But if it's a nice home and it's clean, I'll ask them. I was like, hey, shoes on or off? And they'll be like, oh, you can leave them on. I'm like, you sure? I'm afraid my wife's going to come out and smack me upside my head and yell at me. And my wife's Filipino, and they laugh, ha, ha, ha. And it's building those small rapport, building the values as quick as you can. Paying attention to stuff on the walls. If you have a military family, they'll have a flag. Me being military, I'll comment on that. When I'm walking in the door, I'm beelining it to the table like Clay. I'm like kind of looking for the table, and I just start walking in that direction. And what you'll notice is that they're going to follow you. You're there to help them. Yep. Sometimes if you get on the couch, then you got to ask, hey, you got a table? This is really uncomfortable on my back. I want to be able to sit down, take some notes like Julius said. So it's just more or less, getting in, build that rapport real quick. And then you sit down, like you said, I don't pull anything out either. I kind of wait. The only thing I'll have is I have a folder kind of like this, for example, and this is all I have. It has all the information that I need. And then I just kind of set it on the table, and then that's it.
Awesome. So you guys said a few things that I think are key. TV's loud, ask them to turn it down. Go straight to the table. We're making small talk. We're not there to talk to them for 15, 20 minutes about, any of those topics, right? Because if you get friend zoned, you're not going to help them. And Clay, you remember when you first started? Remember how, I had asked you what were your conversations like? And how much time you were talking with them, remember? Tell them real quick about that and how that impacted your business.
He'd be like, how did the conversation go? I'm like, or how'd the appointment go? I'm like, oh man, we had a great conversation, and they didn't buy, but it was good dude. And Julius would be like, bro, that's not why you're here. You're not going to make friends. Like what, why are you so stoked that you met a good dude? Like that's not what you're here for. And so I think that, so we've got some newer agents on here, and you'll hear a lot of us talk to you about like valuing your time. And, it's almost like we value your time more than you do right now because you're new. And I understand where you're at, because I felt like I come from a bartending background. Like that's what I did. I would sit there and talk forever. I mean, like that's what I did. And so I just had it embedded in my brain that in order to get a good tip or a good, have a regular keep coming back, I needed to, sit there and talk to them for 30 minutes. And like, that was really something that Julius pounded in my brain that like, look, dude, you can build rapport throughout the appointment. You don't have to sit there and talk to them forever. So I've kind of shifted the opposite from the beginning to where like, I don't really even talk much at all. And, I'm a sociable dude. I like to talk to everybody, but when I walk through that door, it's like I turn into somebody else. I'm very much I value my time, man. I'm trying to get in and get the client and get out.
The other thing you guys got to keep in mind is this, like you can talk yourself out of a sale.
Yep.
You talk too much, you're going to talk yourself out of a sale. And that was what Clay was doing. He was talking himself out of a sale. And I don't want you guys to do that, thinking the more you talk, the more likely they're to buy. Because the one analogy that I like to use, guys, is like when I have someone over my house for service, Cox Cable, DirecTV, someone working on whatever, I don't want them to be my friend. Get me what I need and get the hell out. Right? Like I can be cool with you. I can be nice, but like you're there to do something. You have a job to do. I want you to do your job as fast as humanly possible and get out. And so that's what they want us to do. Now, some of these folks want us to stick around because there are a lot of people out there that are lonely and clients that don't get a lot of company. So not everyone's like us, but that's the approach you want to have. Okay. So that's number 2.
I would say also one more thing is controlling the conversation, controlling the meeting. Like if you know the client's a talker, and if you've gone on enough appointments, you'll get those guys that will just talk. It's like they need an oxygen tank, you know. It's controlling the meeting, because if you get too loose, that's what Clay's saying, is that and Julius is saying, is that you're talking yourself out of the cell. So you want to make sure that you're staying to the objective and why you're there.
And
you're not there to talk to them about their hobbies.
Nate, because I think you hit something on the head. When you have a person that's a talker, and you have a person that's going to take the conversation in a different direction, your job is to get it back on track. Hey, no, totally hear you. Yep, right. Like you're agreeing. And then, okay, so tell me, and we'll kind of go through it, right? So maybe we can role play that for the guys when we're going through one of these steps. But that's a key skill that you're going to need to kind of get down, so that way you can continue working through your appointment. So good point, Nate. All right. Step 3, setting the table. Okay. Now everyone has a slightly different approach, but for the most part, they're all the same. So setting the table is really where you're going to foreshadow what you're doing and what you're there to do. Okay. Clay or Nate, one of you guys want to take setting the table and kind of walk us through what you do, and then the other 2 will tie in.
You want to go ahead, Clay? You can go first.
Okay. So, once again, when I set the table, I think it's very important to, reestablish why I'm there to begin with. So I'll have the lead cards printed out, and I'll simply slide it across the table. And, I've been running a lot of mortgage lately, so I'll just kind of role play that. I'll ask them, which one of you 2 filled out the form? And could you kind of walk me through what was going on in your mind as you were filling out this form, and if you have anyone specific in mind? So, and then I just sit back, and this is the one time where I'll kind of let them ramble a little bit, not too long. As Nate says, I'll control the conversation, but I want to bring that emotion. I want that emotion to come out, right? So they fill the form out sometimes a couple weeks prior to me sitting there, and so that emotion might not be there. So I want them to reconnect with that emotional feeling that they had, as they were filling out the form. So I let them talk for a minute. And if they don't bring up someone specific, I'll say, well, did you have anyone specific in mind as you were filling out this form? And that's when I'm getting my beneficiary. Okay. So I kind of picked up on this early on, that I want to start using the beneficiary's name as often as possible throughout the appointment, simply because these people are not doing this for them. They're doing it. John's doing it for Mary. John is getting this protection for Mary. So I'm not talking to John as if he's going to be using this. I'm talking to John as if Mary's going to be using this. So I let me know why he filled out the form. And once he's done, I'll generally say, unless, they're like, I just filled it out because I got a bunch of these forms and I just wanted to be done with it. Most of the time they're going to say, give that type of reaction of, I want to take care of my family. And I'll say, good, that's why I'm here today. Okay. So just to let you know a little bit about who I am, my name is Clay Sweet. I'm a local field underwriter in Maricopa County. Okay. I see roughly between 10 to 12 families a day. I'm licensed in about 20 different states, but my home base is in Arizona. I live in Chandler. Our office is in Mesa, so we are local. Okay. They make my job very, very simple. My job is to take a little bit of information. It's a little bit of prescription, a little bit of financial, a little bit of health history. And then based on how you answer those questions, I'll be able to make a recommendation for coverage. Now, as I'm talking, I'll have my state license as well as the credibility sheet, and I'll be kind of nudging that in front of them. I don't necessarily address it. I just let them look at my license and the credibility sheet. Now, even to this day, I've kind of switched up a little bit. I'm constantly trying to get better in the home. So someone brought up a training and brought it up about gas. So I'll let them know I'm a local field underwriter. Based on how you answer those questions, I'll be able to make a recommendation for coverage. I'm also an independent broker. These are just a few of the carriers that we do represent. Just to let you know, this is all state regulated. Kind of think about like gas. Okay, you go down one end of the street, it's a penny more than the other end of the street. They're all going to be around the same price. So my job is to take some information and then based on how you answer those questions, make a recommendation where you get the most value for the lowest price. Does that make sense, John? Yes. And they'll say yes. And then I'll say, okay, once I make the recommendation, John, the most important reason why I'm here, and I really highlight this because this is why we're here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not get this twisted, is to help you submit an application for coverage. Okay. They're going to ask some questions. I'm going to facilitate this process. And in order to submit an application, they're going to need to verify you through your Social Security and your banking information. They're going to check what's called your MIB report, the Medical Information Bureau, to make sure that you are who you say you are, and also that you're eligible for these programs. Okay. So with that being said, do you have any questions? And usually they don't. I said, shall we proceed? And then it's off to the races. So what did I just do there? I let them know who I was. I gave myself credibility because I'm licensed in multiple states. If you're new and you're only licensed in one state, you don't need to bring that up. All you need to say is I'm licensed in your home state. I'm an independent broker, so I have the ability to shop around. These are all state regulated programs. Based on how you answer the questions, I'm going to be able to make a recommendation for coverage. Once I make the recommendation, we are going to submit an application. The way that they verify you is through your Social Security and your banking information, and we're going to submit. So I just literally foreshadowed the entire appointment. I laid out pretty much all the objections that they might come up with. I need to shop around. I already told them, banking information, Social Security, I already told them, I told them who I am. This is all state regulated. So, I just really, and I did that in a minute and a half. You don't need to talk forever. I just get wham, bam, and then it's on to the financial inventory.
Thank you,
So
man.
I've just found that if I do that, then we're good.
Yeah. So you for those that didn't catch the Thursday in-home objection training that we did on the FFL America webinar this Thursday, go back and watch that. Okay. The reason why is because all of the folks that were on there talked about, we really don't get that many objections anymore if you set the table properly. And so what Clay just did was exactly that, right? He took a lot of objections away in terms of shopping around. He took a lot of objections away. I need to think about it. Well, we don't even know if we can get you approved, right? So when you set the table properly, and guys, number one, you don't have to be perfect at it, okay? There's no such thing as perfection. You got to find your flow. Clay says a few different words than I say a few different words than Nate says, but it all works, right? But the point of it is you want to get when you get setting the table down to be kind of masterful and you're saying the same thing every time, you're going to get less objections and you're going to be helping a lot more clients. Nate, is there anything that you touch on that may be a little different than what Clay did, or anything additional, I guess you could say?
No, I mean, he does the same thing. What when I go into the setting the table, what I'll do is I'll pull out my license. I give him my license first thing. I think we all kind of do it just in different steps. And I'll let them know this is my state license. I'm not required by law to show it. I do it for your protection. You can't be too careful these days. So, and then I'll have them, I was like, if you flip that over, these are some of the companies we work with. Once they look at that information, I'll give them the lead sheet. And then what I like to do is I like to take the inventory sheet and I flip it over. And I'll ask them, I'll be like, hey, well, just so you know, before I consider taking on any client, one of the things I like to do is I like to find out why this was important to you. What are you looking to accomplish? And I'll get the three things I'm looking to, not be a financial burden, or I want to pay my bills, or I want to make sure my kids are taken care of, or whatever they tell you. Yeah. And I'll list them out. I usually get 3 solid facts. The beneficiaries information, if they say they're kids, great. What are their first names? Okay, so Mike and Jim. Okay, so Mike and Jim are your kids. Are they local? Oh yeah, they're local. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll repeat everything that they back to them. Like, hey, it's just so I understand, it looks like you want to make sure that there's no financial burden on your family, and that Jim and Mike are taken care of, and that they have the money so that they're not having to pull out of their pockets. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, great. I can see why you reached out to our office. I can see why you wanted why we're here today. And then as soon as I do that, bam, I'm flipping the sheet over, and I'll let them know, just so you know, I don't have any approval power. As much as I wish they gave that to me, I'd probably be approving everybody, and then I'd be getting calls from the companies telling me that, why did you approve this person with cancer? Well, they needed help. So I can't approve anybody for anything. My goal is to find out if there's something that's affordable, that's comfortable, and that you can qualify for. And the most we can do is we can submit an application, and we can go from there. Is that fair? And they say yes. The Social Security bank thing to play, that's good. I like how you did that. So that's how I kind of do my my intro to or setting the table.
Okay. So again, guys, we're all doing the same thing. Light tweaks, right? The few things I want to drive home is this. When you set the table, you have 2 goals here. Okay. Number 1, increase credibility. How are you increasing credibility? Number 1, you're telling them you're not a salesperson. If you're not saying that, you need to say that. Hey, Bob and Mary, I'm not a salesperson. I'm a local field underwriter, and I'm a licensed broker. So you increase credibility by showing them your license, which you don't have to do, but you want to be proactive, right? The last thing you want is at the end, they're like, well, they're telling you something that they don't trust you because they didn't see a license. I had that, right? The other thing I would do if you guys don't have one is get a badge. Right? I have a badge. Get a little badge, costs you $5 on Zazzle.com, Zazzle.com. Maybe it's $10, whatever it is. And it just makes your credibility elevate just that much more for just a few dollars. And by increasing your credibility, they are going to see you're a professional, and you're real and you're serious. And number 2, you're trying to decrease sales pressure. Right? This is what Grady trained us back in the day when I was getting started. He said this a lot. Increase credibility, decrease sales pressure. No one wants to get sold. Everyone wants the service, but no one wants to get sold. So if you can increase your credibility, your professionalism, your demeanor, your posture, your structure, and now that doesn't feel like pressure to do business because, hey, guess what, Bob and Mary? We can't make a decision today anyway. And this is what I say, is because I'm not the decision maker. The companies are. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can actually get you approved and get you qualified by helping you submit an application when we find a plan that makes the most financial sense and is most comfortable for you. Does that make sense, Bob and Mary? Yes. Okay, great. So you're going to tell them what you're there to do. That's what taking control and setting the table looks and sounds like. And I'm not going to repeat all the other words that Clay and Nate mentioned, but that's the key, guys. Increase credibility, decrease sales pressure, and make sure that they know what you're there to do right there and then. All right. Great job, guys. So let's move to the next one. Financial inventory, right? So after you've walked in, you've taken control, you've set the table, now you're ready to start the actual appointment, right? Everything before was like the preface of what you're actually there to do. You're just laying the groundwork to avoid problems on the back end. And if you have any if a client has concerns or doubt, or you feel like they're a tire kicker or they're whatever, that's where you kind of you're trying to weed them out, because the last thing you want to do is waste 30 minutes and then, walk out the door with, not being able to help a client. So you're actually trying to weed them out by being so forthcoming so they don't feel a certain type of way. We're either doing business or we're not, for the most part. Okay. So now it's on the financial inventory. Everybody should have a financial inventory sheet. I'm not going to ask you the questions. I'm not going to go through the questions I ask, because it's just filling out a sheet. I will pick on a few. I want to point out a few things that I do in terms of order of the sheet, because I think order of the sheet will help you with flow of the questions you ask. So the first thing I always do is I start with the box in the middle. I fill out their names. I ask how old they are. Are you a smoker? Are you working or retired? If they're working, I'm like, oh, great. What do you do? This is a place where you can build some rapport. Oh, I'm an engineer. Oh, cool. What do you do? What company you're at? Like, tell me a little bit about, right? Just quick little 30 seconds. You're getting to know them. If they're retired, okay, what did you do during your career? I'm trying to understand, right? Like, I'm just genuinely trying to learn who I'm dealing with. So name, age, occupation, what do they do? Are they a smoker? I don't touch on income here. I leave income alone. Then I move to their residence. If it's a mortgage protection, I ask questions about their mortgage, how long, what's their value. If they're renting, obviously, then I'm going to find out what their rent is and kind of that. Then after I understand their living, expenses, bills in terms of mortgage, rent, etc., then I will come back to income. Now, the thing that I do is I always throw in a transition line. So, hey, Bob, how old are you? Are you a smoker? Great. Okay, let's talk about your, let's talk about your mortgage. You just refinance, you purchased the home, right? Or, hey, do you own or rent? Oh, I rent. Okay, cool. How much is your rent? Okay, great. And then I'll say, okay, now let's talk about income. So I just make a little quick pivot, right? Let's talk about income. So it's not just like you're smacking them upside the head. All right, how much do you make? No, you gotta be fluid, right? Like you gotta be, you just give them a pointer of what we're gonna talk about. Okay, let's talk about income now. Now, when you talk about income, the way I say it is, all right, Bob and Mary, and I ask them individually, Bob, about how much on average do you make per month after taxes? What's your net income per month? So you're looking for net. What is your cash flow? And if a lot of people might say, well, they're sitting there and thinking, okay, what do you average every 2 weeks on your paycheck if you get paid biweekly? I get paid $1,200 every 2 weeks. Okay, so $2,400 a month? Yes. If they're retired, okay, so obviously you're retired. Okay, how much are you getting on Social Security? If they're retired, they're getting their Social Security. Do you have a pension, right? Do you have any other sources of monthly income? Those are the questions you should be asking on the income. Then after that, I'm going to move to medications. Okay, hey, let's talk about medical stuff now. That's exactly my pivot. Let's talk about medical stuff. All right, are you taking any medications currently? That's a key question. The second question that folks miss sometimes is, are there any meds that you used to take or were prescribed that you no longer take or have never taken? Because sometimes they've been prescribed something and they forgot about it, or they stopped taking it 2-3 months ago or a year ago. That will come up in their MIB check. So you have to ask that, so that way you don't get a red flag when you're running their medical history. Then I just simply ask any surgeries or hospitalizations in the last 5 years. I just ask for the last 5. That usually will knock out most if you get the last 5. And then I'll ask any major medical conditions that you've had to deal with over time. Heart attack, strokes, and I go through the list that are listed there. Okay. Super simple. Medical stuff usually takes just a few seconds. After I do medical, then I jump down to, okay, now let's talk about some other things that you may have in place. Do you have any life insurance currently? Yes. Is it work coverage or is it private coverage? It's private. Okay, great. I find out the details, right? Now, guys, don't be intimidated if they have coverage already. One of the things that I like to do is if they tell me they have coverage, oh, okay, you were just looking to get some additional protection in place then? Yeah. Okay, cool. Right? Like, no big deal, right? Whether it's final expense, instant, they put out a request for a reason. And if it's not that reason, they're going to tell you. So just assume, oh, you just wanted some more protection. And you don't even have to say that there, but that's one of the things that I would do. Who are the beneficiaries on there? Then I'll ask the money question after I find out if they have life insurance. Now, actually, there is a key thing I want to talk on. If they have work coverage, I always kill off work coverage, right? Yes, I have coverage through work. Okay, great. I'm glad that you have your benefit through work. How much coverage do you have? And I ask them and I go, okay, now do you have anything private? No, I don't. Okay, you want to make sure you guys have something private, Bob and Mary, because at the end of the day, work coverage is considered a supplemental plan. You're part of a group, right? So your company owns this plan. You get to participate in this group plan while you work there. If you get fired, you quit, maybe you're on FMLA or out of work for a long period of time because of medical reasons, that coverage will not be in place, God forbid something happens to you. Do you understand that, Mary? Yes. Okay. So it's important you have something that's private that you own. That way, regardless of employment, you and your family are protected. Make sense? Yes. So what did I do? I'm planting seeds. I'm dropping nuggets, right? That way they know that they can't come back and tell me I'm going to rely on work coverage because I've already killed it off. Then the last thing I'm going to talk about is, all right, this is the money question. This is how you find annuities. Do you have anything in place that'll help you offset the cost of your mortgage in the event you pass away? Things like 401ks, IRAs, stocks, or bonds. If they say yes, great. Approximately how much do you have in that account? If they say no, okay. Any significant savings in case of an emergency, Bob or Mary? That's really the extent of the financial inventory, right? But that's the order that I do that helps me. And then you also want to make sure when you're switching topics, just give them a quick heads up. All right, hey, let's talk about income. All right, hey, let's talk about medical. All right, hey, how, so those are the things that I do. Anything you guys want to add there?
It's pretty much the same thing for me.
Couple things that I started doing about 4 or 5 months ago that's really kind of helped me is I use this sheet to my advantage. So something that I do that started kind of helping me is, well, first of all, I'm putting the beneficiary's name. I'm finding that out like at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely using their name throughout the financial inventory. So, do you have anything in place that would protect Mary if God forbid something happened to you? Something that I started doing a while back that's really kind of hit home is like, I want to bring these people to come to realize that we're all human. We're all going to pass away at some point or another. So I really started nailing home family history. Talk to me about mom and dad. They're still alive. How did they pass away? If, majority of the time, especially in a final expense appointment, their parents passed away with poor health, either cancer, stroke, heart attack. So there is a history of heart attack and cancer in your family. Okay. So I'm literally having them be like, oh goodness, I've got, that type of history, I need to get something in place. So I really use the beneficiary to my advantage, filling this form out. And it's helped me tremendously. So just, family history, making sure that you're using the beneficiary's name multiple times while you're filling out this form.
Yeah, the beneficiary is key, guys. And when I don't know if we really touched on, I think we did touch on it, but maybe not enough. When you're setting the table, you're asking the question, why did you submit this request, right? Regardless of their answer, okay, so if something happened to you, who's going to be that person that you would leave this behind for? Who are you looking to protect the mortgage for? Who are you looking to leave this benefit behind if you pass away? Who, right? So you're actually getting the beneficiary before you're even in the financial inventory, because then throughout your conversation, you're bringing up that person, right? So it's not about you, Mary, it's about John. Okay, so if something happened to you, you want to make sure John is taken care of, right? Okay, cool. So that way you have ammunition down the road. You're using their words against them, not in an evil way, but in a way that it makes sense for the business, right? It makes sense for what we're trying to accomplish, and not we as underwriters, what the client is trying to accomplish. They are trying to protect John. So we want to continue to remind them of that throughout, and yes, get the beneficiary on the front end.
Yeah, the other thing is when you guys are doing that throughout the inventory gathering, I call it collecting ammunition. because people are going to, in their head, convince themselves that they don't need this. Oh, you know, I don't need this. I don't want to get this. It's death insurance. You know, it's not something that people like to talk about. So nailing those home, and like even with the mom and dad, I started doing that about a month ago. Hey, how old was mom and dad? How did they pass away? You can use that, like Clay was saying. I bring that up, bring it, oh man. So if I could see why you reached out to us, especially if they're in the age of their parents when they died, or they're close to. Like sometimes you have parents that died at a young age, sometimes you have them at an older age, but they're kind of like getting to that point. Oh, I can see why you definitely reached out and why this was important to you.
Yep.
So that's something
That's
I do.
key. It's key.
That's really good. That's really good. All right, guys. Drop a 100 if you guys are getting some value out of this. Drop a 100 in the chat if you guys are getting some information that can help you in your appointments today, tomorrow, this week, make more money. Awesome. All right, guys. So next step in the appointment process is underwriting. I call so underwriting. So if you're new and you're not seasoned, or you just really haven't figured out the underwriting portion, the first thing I want to tell you is this. Once you complete the financial inventory, if you are within your first at least 30 appointments, you should be calling your manager every single time. Let me repeat that. If you're within your first 30 appointments, and or maybe you haven't figured out underwriting yet, you need to call your manager every single time. Why? Because we are here to help you. Okay. So in the underwriting process, it's very simple. We're trying to figure out eligibility. Okay. And there's two things to figure out underwriting. Number one, you should be looking at prescriptions. Okay. So to get approved for simplified issue life insurance that does not require a medical exam, there's two things that are required. One, a prescription check, and then admission on the application. Okay, so prescription and admission, right? So what prescriptions have they received over time? And you can check all of their prescriptions online in the underwriting guides for the carriers, and you should be learning how to read that and how to go through that and how to search in that. Super simple. That should, if you have not started doing that, start. And then application questions, right? So when I was starting and I didn't understand what questions and how to figure things out, Grady said to me, you need to just read the questions on the applications. How are they worded? And that will tell you where a client may fit, right? Are they asking for within the last 2 years, last 3 years, ever, etc. So you have to just, and if you're uncertain, you can literally pull up the application, read it, and which I've done many times to learn. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so it says this. It says, you know, do you have COPD, you know, ever? Okay, well, obviously he does have COPD. And that's not necessarily a question, but I'm just giving you an example, right? You know, have you been hospitalized in the last year? Oh, you were hospitalized 2 years ago. Okay, so that doesn't apply. Well, maybe then this will work, right? So it's just two things, prescription and admission. So the key that I want to touch on here for all of us is call your upline, your manager for help. I hate using the word upline, your manager for help every single time until you get this down, okay? But all you really are looking for is prescriptions and what are they admitting to that you have to mark yes on the application. And your goal, if you haven't been on appointments yet, or maybe you have and you feel like you need to understand every product and company, and you don't need to do that. We're going to help you design the case and pick the product based on your specific client so that way you can earn money while you're learning how to do this. And then after 30 or 40 appointments, you're going to realize you're running into the same medications, the same exact thing, and it's just like riding a bike. Repetition is the master of success, right? Repetition is the master of getting this down. So anything you guys want to touch on there without kind of going into all the prescriptions and all that? I think that one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, all the information's there. Just call your manager, or like Julius said. Julius was a big proponent of me when I was starting to get my legs under me, looking at the applications. If you fill out an Eagle application, FFL America is a great tool. It's got the application questions right there. So I'm a big fan of FFL America. It's got all the underwriting guidelines, build chart, all that stuff. So a lot of times I didn't have to call Julius because I could figure it out on my own. But never hurts to give a quick call either.
That's right. Even if you're experienced and unsure, call, right? Because our goal, if we can help you make more money, well, let me take that back. If we can help you help the client in a better way than you thought you could, you're going to put the client in a better position, which is our number one goal. And as a result, you're going to end up making more money. Okay. So that's number 5. So number 5 is just underwriting. Step 5 in an appointment. Step 6 is where we are going to explain the plan and benefits so that the customer knows how this will help them, and then also use your sales tools. So Nate, you want to talk about how you explain the plan and benefits, and then what sales tools you use at this portion? We can't hear you, Nate.
All right, there we go. Yeah, so once I know what they qualify for, say it's an AmeriCo plan, what I like to use is that if you go to fflamerica.com, they have a final expense cheat sheet. I'll pull this thing out, and I'll go through them just so you know how these programs work. It's permanent coverage. It never expires. And they have a checklist that goes all the way down. The benefits guaranteed to remain level. The premiums are guaranteed to remain level, which means that they're fixed. They're never going to go up. It does pass to a beneficiary or beneficiaries of your choice. It avoids probate, and it pays out tax-free. Does that make sense so far? Yes. Okay, great. If you pass away in an accident, depending on the program, you get up to 50%. So if it's it will actually double. I take that back. Say if you have a $10,000 policy, it's going to automatically go to 20. It does have living benefits. It's just an option you can choose to exercise. Options are good to have when you need them. It covers you in case you have a qualifying event as well. It does build, and I'll break that down. I'll go, if you can't do 2 of the 6 daily living activities, bathing, eating, walking, transferring, you get sick, something takes place, you can exercise that. You can pull 50% of the funds out. It does build cash value, and it would be immediate effective if approved. So this is a sheet. I just read it right off the sheet, and I highlight these areas as I'm going through it, and I'll ask them, does that make sense? And they're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. That put it in layman's terms for me. That's one of the things that I like to use, and I give them this sheet so they know exactly how the program works as well before I even know which company I'm going to be going with. But by that time, I mean, if you know it's AmeriCo, for example, it's perfect.
Clay, anything you want to touch on?
No, I mean, Nate pretty much nailed it. I mean, I try to explain in layman's terms. I don't get real, technical. I just basically living benefits. If you're talking about the Eagle Premier, the cash value, the term illness rider, double accidental. I hit 5 major points, and then I'll say when I transition from that to the product, I'll say, let's say you're talking about AmeriCo Eagle Premier, I'll say, now the company that I'm going to recommend is AmeriCo. The product is the AmeriCo Eagle Premier. This is the Cadillac of these type of policies. Everything that I just explained is in this product. So it kind of is like a nice transition. I'll say, A+ rated carrier, been around for 80, 90 years, over 100, almost 100 years. So basically what Nate said pretty much is what I do.
Okay. So a few things that I want to touch on here. Number one, when you're new or getting started, or the main thing that you need to know is the 2 major policies or products that we sell. So for the most part, it's term and whole life. Those are the top 2 that we're going to sell. So you should understand the basis of both of those, right? Now, when you explain the benefits, you definitely need to keep it simple, because people think insurance can be a very complex thing to understand, right? So when we talk about whole life, I touch on a few things. It's permanent coverage, Bob. Your price doesn't change. Your benefits don't change. It builds cash value, which is like a little savings plan within your policy that a portion of your premium will go to. So I just kind of mentioned that, right? And then if it includes accidental, I'll talk about that, but just very simple, right? And then if we're talking whole life and we're talking with a client that maybe is on fixed income, I'll tie that into that, right? If they're retired, hey, this is a plan that won't change in price. And with you being on fixed income, you don't want a plan that changes in price because it's going to eat into your discretionary income and make it harder for you to afford later in life. Does that make sense? Yes. So I'm getting them to agree why this makes perfect sense for them. If we're talking a term, the basic understanding of a term is, hey, you can get coverage for a period of time, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I list out the numbers depending on the age, of course, because an older person has less options than a younger person in terms of number of years. This is going to give you a death benefit. This is going to give you a living benefit, and I'll explain those living benefits. It'll include accidental if it does. So you're just laying out the very simplistic benefits of the plan. The other thing that I do, guys, is this is where I slide over. Like once I know which carrier, America, Mutual, whoever, I have a brochure, which I call the carrier and have them send to me for free in color, beautiful, it's using the sales tools that these carriers give us. And I slide it in front of them. So now they have something to look at while I'm pulling up options for them. So now they have a document. And what did that do? That also increased my credibility even more, because now I've given them a sales brochure from America or Mutual or whoever. So now they see, oh, wow, this guy's legit, right? He's got this and he's explaining it and he's making sense to me and it's very easy to follow. And so that's what you should be doing there, is explaining it in simplistic form. That's where you pass the sales brochure over so they can see it's real and tangible. They can touch it and feel it. That way it's not just this like mythical thing. And now you can move forward. So while they're doing that, now they're looking at a brochure. So they're reading and they're looking and they're touching. And now I'm on the quote tools looking for options. Okay. That's number 6. So number 6 is explaining the plan and benefits and using your sales tools. Okay. Someone can capture 5 and 6 in the chat. I'd appreciate it. And then last but not least, this is where we bring it all together. And this is where we show options and we close. Okay. So we're tying it all together based on their eligibility, based on their income, based on their situation, the lead type. What we're looking to bring home is we're going to show them 3 options. We're not going to talk about which one of those it is in terms of product, but you're going to always show 3 options. If you're doing mortgage protection for a client, there's a few different ways you can do it. You can show 3 options of full coverage, but different years. So if I have a younger person, sometimes I'll show them, let's just say their mortgage is $200,000. I might show them $200,000 at 20 years, 25 years, and 30 years. That way they're covering the full mortgage no matter which option they pick. And then I'll say which one of these makes the most financial sense and is most comfortable for you. If they're maybe an older client, instead of showing them 100% of the mortgage, I might show them 100% of the mortgage. For example, let's say you're dealing with a 60-year-old client and they can only get like a 15 or 20-year deal. So I might show them 100% of the mortgage. I might show them 75% of the mortgage and 50% of the mortgage. That way we can find them something that makes sense and is, again, makes financial sense and is affordable. If you're talking whole life, you might show them, you should always be showing the max. So that's the one thing. The one way you write big policies, guys, hey, I'm required by the state to show you the maximum coverage you're eligible to apply for. And then you can show them to others, right? That's, if they don't know what they're eligible for, they'll never pick it, right? That was one thing when I started. I was scared to show them bigger numbers because I was scared that they're not going to get it or they were going to get it and cancel it. But that was me and my like scarcity mindset. So always show 3 options. And once you show the 3 options, don't just pause. You have to right away go for the close, right? So as soon as you show the 3 options, I explain them. Okay, the first, so I'll write it on a piece of paper on the back of the inventory. And I always do top-down selling. The top is always going to be the highest. The middle will be obviously the middle. The bottom option is always going to be the least expensive. And I walk them through. Okay, so if you want to cover, if you want to get 35,000 in whole life, it's this much per month. If you want to get 25,000 in whole life, it's this much. If you wanted to get 20,000 in whole life, is this one. Now, I don't know if I can get you approved, Bob, because like I mentioned, it's not up to me. It's up to the carriers. But if we could, which one makes the most financial sense and is the most comfortable for you? And then I wait. And then you wait. That's how you close. Which one? So you're giving them, you're asking a question, which one, right? Which one makes the most financial sense? Which one is most comfortable for you, right? And you wait. Now, if they ask you a question, I want you guys to understand that that is a buying sign. When they ask you a question after you've closed or you're attempting to close, that's a buying sign. That means there's interest. Don't get scared. Don't beat around the bush. Be very direct. So this is monthly? Yes, this is monthly. Which one works better for you? And go and recap and just ask the question again, right? You don't want to leave it open. You want to continue to ask the question so they make a decision. The key in this business, guys, is to properly take an order. This is where we are taking an order and not selling. So what I mean by that is this whole appointment, we've reduced our sales pressure, increased our credibility, and now we're not trying to hammer we're not pushing the sale on them. We're asking them, we're taking the order. Which one is best for you? And when they pick one, they made the decision. Not you, not me. We didn't force anything down their throat. They made a decision, and now they've chosen the option that they are most comfortable with. Anything else you guys got to add on that?
Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
So 3 options, ask the question. And then if they ask anything or they're making comment, oh, here's the other thing that I learned. Silence is golden. Silence is golden. You ask the question, you do not talk.
Ever.
If you talk, you're not getting the sale. Okay, if you guys didn't know this, this is a sales technique, but the first person to talk usually is what they say loses. Okay, so when you ask you ask the closing question, you pause, and if it's 2, 3, 4 minutes of silence, that's fine. Just look down at your paper, check your email on your phone. It doesn't matter. If they're talking amongst themselves, let them talk. Let them figure it out. Give them a moment to process. Give them a moment to figure it out.
Yeah, I had that actually happen to me where a guy took almost 5 minutes to make a decision. I didn't say anything the entire time, and then he picked, and I was like, awesome. So that's like so vital because you can, at that point, that's where most people will talk themselves out of the sell.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen. So that's where you get it, and that's how you don't talk yourself out and give them time to process. And then regardless of what they pick, the top, the middle, the bottom, I'm not trying to upsell. I told them I'm not there to sell them. I'm there to help them. So if they pick the bottom one, great. They pick the top one, great. They pick the middle one, great. I don't care. I want them to be comfortable. I'm there to service them. You're there to service them. So regardless of the option, okay, perfect. Now I just need 2 things and we'll see if we can get you covered. Go ahead and grab your driver's license and grab a voided check. If you don't have your voided check, we just need the routing and account number. We'll see if we can get you approved. And if you happen to have a bottle of water, I'd love one. I'm super thirsty. It'll take only about 5 minutes and we'll see if we can get you approved. And you just wait. And then guess what they do? They go get their driver's license. They go get their check. And they're going to start by getting you the water first because they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't get you a water or ask. Right? And they're like, I'm so sorry. Oh, it's fine, Mary. It's okay. They get you the water and then you're like, all right, go grab that other stuff and you wait. And then you just fill out the application. And then while you're filling out the application, have some small talk. Don't be weird about it. Just help them fill it out. So anything else you guys want to add on that piece?
Yeah, that's where I throw in that money close that I did the video on a couple months back or a couple weeks back. I like to show them, hey, just so you know, this is how this works. This is how the companies work. And I give them the full breakdown of how, I'm going to be asking for their social security number. You can do it in the front end. I like to do it kind of at that point because they know that they picked. Just so you know, this is how the companies identify you. This is how the conditional receipt, you're either going to get approved or denied. We're going to find out within 20 to 48 hours. The most you can do is you can fill out an app and we can see what they say. Does that make sense? They say, yes, I'm like, great. And then I go right into, you got me, do you have a copy of your driver's license and you have a blank check by chance? And just get right into it.
That's it, guys. And so here's the thing. We talked about the 7 ways, the 7 steps to do an in-home. If you do this on every appointment, you're going to close at a higher rate, without a doubt. It doesn't matter what lead you bought. It could be a 3-month-old lead. It could be an instant internet lead. It could be a brand new mortgage lead, a brand new final expense lead. It could be a year-old lead. I don't care. Once you're sitting with the client, this is the same process, the same structure that I have in every home. This is the same thing that Nate does in every home. It's the same thing that Clay does in every home. And so your goal here, guys, is to do exactly that. Fine tune it, tweak it, make it your own, personalize it, bring your personality out in it. Okay, you guys are all great. I believe in every one of you. There's not one person in here on our team, at our company, that cannot do what we do. So just go out there, and if you are consistent in your process, you will have consistent results. If you do something different every time you're sitting with a client, your results will be all over the place. So you have to create process. You have to create structure. Be disciplined and make sure you do it every time. Don't skip steps. And I promise you, you will help a lot of families. I promise you, you can do 20, 30K a month without a doubt, because these guys are doing it. And you've noticed we're all doing the same thing. Slight differences, slight little tweaks that, the word tracks for Clay are a little different than Nate's and mine, but we're all doing the same thing, guys. We don't have to sound like robots. We just have to follow the process and do the structure.